chance to get in. So we are live now, and hello, I'm Kimberly Hunt. We'll get started in just a minute. We'll let people join and get excited. We'll hear about what we're going to talk about today, and I'll set the tone with this is going to be a lot of fun. It's informal. I don't care what we look like, what we sound like. We have lots of great information to share and lots of fun to be had. So I'm super excited. And thank you so much, Melody, for joining us. It has been a pleasure to work with you. And let's start off first, make sure I say your name correctly. So introducing you to the fans and followers that are here today to listen to us. We have Melody Saleh, if I'm saying it correctly.
Perfect. Yes, perfect.
Awesome. And Melody is the author of the Unbroken series, which is a 3-book series. It is phenomenal. She is a master of pace. She has astounded me with her ability to improve her skills and grasp hard concepts like point of view. She's got snappy dialogue, just so many great things in these books. So you definitely can't put them down. We're going to focus on pace today, but we'll touch on other things. Whatever questions the audience has, we're happy to please our followers and our viewers.
Thank you.
Let me just say a couple more things while we let people join, and actually it would be helpful if there we go, just to say hello and say thank you to our supporters. So again, I'm Kimberly Hunt. I'm an editor with Revision Division, and we have a special live video today with author Melody Saleh from the Unbroken series. And we'll focus, no spoilers will be given, but we will talk a little bit. We'll dive into each of the books. And as a quick side note, I just want to direct people to the Revision Division tips blog so that if there's anything we talk about today, you can find more details. Melody has done a guest post on pace, so she's got more information there as well. And you'll find book reviews and writing and editing tips. Send us suggestions for book reviews and author interviews like this. So welcome. And to recap again, just for those that are just joining, we're going to have an author interview that also focuses on pace today. So I'm saying that very fast because I'm super excited.
Great pace.
Yeah. So we'll start with a few questions just to get to know more about you before we dive into Facade, and which is the first book in the Unbroken series. And viewers, you can feel free to send your questions, and I'll pop them in there throughout just to make sure that we address the questions of what you want to hear about. And so thank you, Melody, for joining us today.
My pleasure. This is fun. You know, I almost was going to wear my pajamas.
I actually had the same thought.
We are doing the coffee. I do have mine. This is not my normal coffee mug that I use. I wasn't sure that Facebook would appreciate what my normal mug says. So it's pretty
Censored.
Big, pretty full. So I'm ready. I'm ready with coffee. I didn't wear PJs today, so but yeah, I'm ready. And thank you. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Me too. I had the same thought. I was like, well, I'll put on, the hair and makeup, and then I'll wear my pajama pants like my kids do for virtual learning.
I was going to do my Santa pajamas, so
very festive. So I'd like to start with, so we'll get right into the feelings. Can you describe your emotions when you held the copy of your first novel?
Well, I had decided on a publishing date on my 57th birthday, which was December 31st, 2019. And, it took me so many years to write the first book. And I think a lot of writers have that same fear. Is it good enough? Should I really publish it? Are people going to like it? Are they going to enjoy it? Or are they going to bash me for it? So I finally decided several years before I published that, that was it. I was going to go ahead and take the plunge, go ahead and do everything I needed to do to get it ready. I sent it through the traditional publishing route, several of them, got the kindest, nicest rejection letters. They kept me going, kept me trying. It really did. And then I finally published it, and I printed it, and I got my first box of books. and I couldn't open the box. I mean, I stood there and I looked at it for like the longest time, and my husband's like, "Are you going to open it?" And I cried. I just couldn't believe that I finally accomplished it. I am a goal-oriented person. So for me to actually have it after so many years in the works was just surreal. And I still don't know if it's really hit me. Each book thereafter, I get it. I hold it in my hands. I see my name on the cover of it. And then people start texting me, or I get emails, or I get phone calls if they know me personally, and they're like, "Oh, I'm floored. I can't believe this. I can't believe that." That's when I think it finally hits me that, yeah, I've written books. I've published books. Those are mine. Very
Such an
surreal.
achievement. Such an achievement. And it's amazing to see not the perseverance. I mean, that is also pretty admirable, but it's the improvement. Like, of course, I'm looking at it from an editor's perspective, but to see people take a passion and do everything they can to learn how to improve it. And I mean, it shows that you want to put something out there that is quality, that your readers will enjoy, that you're proud to put your name on. And it's just so wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
So do you, again, in the emotions and the feelings of things, I was taken aback by some of your content in the books. Like you share so much, and I want to know how much of that is based on your life experiences.
Wow. I have lived a life, and I'm almost 58. I have a lot more years to go, but I have definitely lived a life, not only myself, but the people that surround me. And I am very blessed with some amazing friends that I call family. Some I hope are watching today. And I think that's probably why the friendship part of this series is so strong, because of that relationship that I have with these ladies. So my life experience is not only personal, but it extends to my personal relationship with them as well. There's a little bit of me and them in all of the characters, and my husband included. Zaya, she is so strong and so successful. It's funny, I don't really set out to put any friend or any one person into any particular character. But somebody asked me one day who my favorite character is, and I love them all. Good, bad, I love them all, because I think they all have a story to tell. But I think Zaya, because of her strength and her success and everything that she's overcome, and the person that she's become, and everything she's had to go through, I think I can relate so much to that. But then as I was describing her story to somebody one day, I felt I was describing my husband's story and everything that he's accomplished and he's done. And it just hit me that, wow, I think I was mirroring him as I was creating a lot of her. So I think that's why that friendship part is so successful in this series, is because of my own and everybody else's experiences have just kind of rolled up all around in there.
Yeah. So I remember when you first were describing the blurb to me and the book, the first book, I think you compared it to Sex and the City, and was it 50 Shades, or what was the other one?
Without the Red Room.
Yes, that's right.
I have none of that in there. There's some of that, yeah, but there's none of that in there.
Yeah, but it's so fun. It's so clear that it does have that it has relevancy, and you can see the friendships portrayed so well. Like it's real.
Thank you. That's one of the hardest things is when you write a book. Of course I had to go out with the most difficult way of writing my first book, a tagline, something very easy, very quick. Okay, you usually have a main character, an antagonist, and a protagonist, two main characters, and you can usually pretty quickly and briefly describe your book. Well, I had to have 4 main characters. Yeah. I couldn't do it the easy way. I had to be difficult from the get-go. So how do I describe my book quickly that people can understand? It's like, okay, well, as soon as I said Sex and the City, it's about 4 women that are great friends that all have their own personal experiences, but they're there for each other no matter what they're experiencing. And that is the Unbroken series. And, they all have, romantic interests, as Sex and the City does as well. And as in any relationship, they have sex. So yeah, there's some 50 Shades in there. There's just no red room.
There's definitely an audience that loves it though. So don't be apologetic. It is, as you can see, Gabrielle, thank you for joining us. Glad you enjoyed. Yeah, so it's that had to be hard to capture the fact not only is it 4 characters, but you have like 4 stories. So to summarize it in like one line it seems impossible.
It was, but I think that did it.
Yeah, that was very accurate. So when you're not writing, tell us more about you and how you spend your days.
Oh wow, I don't know how to say no. That's my New Year's resolution for 2021. Golf is, I love golf. I love to play golf. It's funny, 20 years ago, I used to, anybody who would sit in front of the TV and watch the Golf Channel, I could never understand. I'm like, oh, that was the most boring game ever. How can you do that? But yeah, Sunday afternoons, you'll find me in front of the TV doing the same thing, watching as they're coming up to the 18th fairway and who's going to win and this and that and cursing at this and that. But I do love to play golf. I do love the game. I think for me, it's getting outdoors, being with my girlfriends, socializing, being with them, and getting my head out of everything else and just focusing on the game, the course that I have to be playing. And for me, that's important because everything else just goes away and I just focus on that as much as I can. Everything else goes away. Other than that, I do a lot of charity work. I am the president of my golf association because I can't say no. I'm on a couple of committees at my country club because I can't say no. I don't chair anymore. I'm on a committee. I did say no, but I am still chairing a committee, the auction committee for a golf tournament that I created. I founded and chaired. This is our 9th year for one of our local animal shelters. So I did say no to chairing, but I'm still involved. So I'm still involved with a lot of things. I'm trying to get more writing in because I that's really truly what I want to be doing. So little by little, I'm trying to take off some of my other responsibilities, but those are important to me because I think that makes me a rounded person and keeps me balanced in life. So I'm trying to find my way, but yeah, those are just a few of the other things. And then my grandkids, I got to spend time with them. And they both are 3 and 5 and they're fish in the pool right now. So when Nana goes over, we like to play in the pool.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely relate to what you're saying because whenever I'm struggling through how do I help an author improve an area or tackle a certain, like, especially conflict, that seems to be something that we struggle, like sometimes making it strong enough or sustaining it or increasing the stakes. Those kinds of things usually require more thought when I'm doing a developmental edit. And I find running, so just like you with golf, like being able to get away from the computer and have the fresh air and focus on something else. And the monotony for me when I'm running, it just kind of, it helps. And so I totally relate. I love it. And I need to get back to it and do more of it. It was great. During one of the books that I was editing for you, I remember you said you were doing a race and I was like, oh, you've inspired me to get out there again.
Oh, I envy you. I used to do triathlons and half marathons before my back surgery 6 years ago. And I don't want to be back in that kind of pain I was in before. So I do a little bit of jogging, but I understand unless you've experienced the runner's high, you don't know what it is. And it's just amazing. It's amazing. You just feel like you can go on forever, like you're running on clouds. Nothing else matters. And it's the most natural, amazing feeling anybody can feel. So I get it. And I'm very envious of you. So please get out there and run for me.
Well, I want to say real quick before I ask you my next few questions, I wanted to say thank you so much for joining. I saw Linda and Nancy, awesome compliments. It's awesome. It's great that you guys are enjoying the books and here to support us today. Thank you. So the next question I have, you've already touched on it. You mentioned some of the charities you're involved with, but it was just amazing to get to know more about you. I think I'm professional. I'm usually very all business. And so once we started to talk about this interview and I learned more about you personally, I was just like, how did I get so lucky to work with an awesome human being? I feel like I need to do a checklist now ahead of time and be like, the rest of my clients need to be on par with Melody. That's awesome.
Oh,
Hey,
thank
Sherry,
you.
thanks for joining.
You're sweet.
So,
thank you.
oh, you're welcome. Okay, so I think we need to do a little bit of a thumbs up for all the ways that Melody gives back. It is truly, she's a role model, and we should do more of it. So thank you so much. Let's get to our next question, focusing a little bit more now on the writing and the elements. So let's start with Facade. Can you tell us what inspired you to write? Facade, that story.
I do a lot of reading. Well, I do a lot of reading now. I did a lot of reading before. I kind of took a break there for a little while. And I do feel that to be a good writer, you have to do a lot of reading. I think that really helps. And at the time when I started writing Facade, I was doing a lot of reading. And I was into those romance novels, the Harlequin romance. Do you remember when, what's the guy with all the hair?
Fabio.
Fabio. He was on the covers. And I think I might have picked up a few of the Fabio covers. And I just remember reading one of the books. I couldn't put it down. I was so into it. It was Lust. Oh yeah, sexy, great. And I went to bed that night and I had this dream of this couple on a beach. She had this beautiful white linen dress on. And as the shoreline was coming up, it was getting all heated. They were kissing each other. He ripped the dress from her and they made mad, passionate love as the waves were crashing on them. And I visualized this whole scene, Linda, I visualized this whole scene. And then the next morning when I woke up, it was so vivid and fresh in my mind. I went to, this will tell you how far back it was, a Compact 456, the first color computers that they made. This will tell you how long ago that was. And I typed it out. And it ended up being the opening scene to Facade. So I typed that up and I couldn't wait to get it down. And two of my very, very close friends, that day, I printed it out and I showed it to them. And they both were like, oh my God, tell me more. Tell me more.
Yeah.
What happens next?
You're on to something.
I don't know. It was a dream I had last night. So little by little, I kind of just played with it and I played with it a little bit more. And then I was just going through Cosmopolitan magazines. Gosh, I think I must have been in my 30s at the time, going through magazines. And, that looks like that could be Amber. And that looks like that's a pretty redhead. She would make a great Dominique. So I just started clipping pictures of what my characters I thought in my mind looked like. And I made a poster board of them. And little by little, I just started adding chapters. And then every time I got a chance, it's funny. I know I've said this many times and some of these people may have never heard this before. Some may have heard it many times. It's literally like a movie projector plays in my head. If you sit down and watch a movie, that's exactly what happens when I write. I have a few things I know that I want to have happen, but I just sit down and the story takes over for me. It's like the characters come alive and they decide what they want to have happen. And it just goes, it just happens. And that's basically how Facade came about. Fabio he's the reason.
Your initial inspiration. Awesome. Sherry and Sandy, thank you so much for joining. Nancy, great suggestion. I agree. Just give me 1 second. My nose. It's not COVID. Okay. That's what we say now. When anybody, like in my house, if anybody coughs or sneezes, we're like, it's not COVID. Allergies. So do you have, you said you started and stopped for a little while. Do you have a writing method? Like what has worked for you to harness that creativity when you had the initial visuals as your inspiration and to be able to do so much in such a short period?
I'm not necessarily proud of this, but this is how it works for me. Right now I'm writing a thriller. And when I write, I have to write. I have to go from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. As we talked about, I have other responsibilities and obligations that come in. And I get sometimes a little irritated when they jump in the middle of my writing sequence because, and that's that part I'm not proud of, but that's basically what happens because that movie never stops playing in my head. I go to sleep at night thinking about it. I'll wake up several times during the night thinking about it. When I wake up and lay in bed in the morning, my mind is there. If I'm not in front of my computer and I'm somewhere else, taking a bath, taking a shower, driving in my car, that story is still playing in my head. So every time something else takes my mind away from that, it's irritating to me, because for me, I want to finish the book. So that's where I do best. If I can just write and finish the book, that's best for me. So I don't write every day. I can write 10 to 11,000 words a day if I can just sit down and write. So I can literally get a book done in 10 to 14 days, the first draft done. Then I like to take a week at least. And that's when the other stuff can fit in. That's when I can get my other projects done. It doesn't always work that way. I wish it did. Because then when I go through the next round of editing, it's a little fresher in my mind. I didn't just finish. I have a little bit fresher eyes. That would be the ideal world for me. Sure. It doesn't always work that way, but that's ideal. It did work that way with C'est La Vie for me. And I think that was just because of COVID. I think because of everything that happened, I literally wrote C'est La Vie from beginning to end without stopping. And it was amazing. It was just an amazing experience. Hasn't worked that way with the one I'm on right now. I'm at 60,000 words and I got 20,000 more words, because I know I'll go back and add stuff to it. But I have 20,000 more words to go. But I have other obligations now that have just popped in there. And I'm trying really hard not to be aggravated and thinking, okay, let me get everything cleared up now. So next week, I know I can just go in and take a couple of days and finish that 20,000 words.
Oh, I completely understand. It is definitely hard for me to do the transitions, like to put on the parenting hat when I'm still thinking about what I was last working on. And it's hard when we're all here together now and I have to transition. I don't have like a commute to.
Yeah. It's funny because my husband, he's a computer geek or nerd. I don't know which is the proper word. He'll correct me if he was here, but he's a computer genius. Let me just put it that way. So when he steps away from his computer, he always tells me he needs some time to like adjust. Exactly. And I get it. I didn't get it before. I totally get it now. He needs time to get his mind out of that and into, hi, honey, how are you? So yeah. I get that now.
Yeah. Tammy, thanks for joining us. You're just in time to hear Melody Saleh, the author of the Unbroken series, give us a little bit more about her before we turn into focused on the elements of pace. So I want to hear a little bit about the challenges. What did you experience that you can share with aspiring writers to get them through some of those same challenges?
You know, on social media, which is great. It's bad sometimes, but it's great too. I hear from a lot of struggling authors, struggling writers that are out there. Imposter syndrome is so real and it's so hard, because I think we are our own worst enemies. Mm-hmm. It keeps us humble. I will definitely say that. I know that some of the most successful authors that are out there, best-selling authors, still sometimes doubt their work and doubt what they've done. We don't want to be the other way. We don't want to have this big ego. I mean, that's definitely not the right thing to do, but imposter syndrome is definitely real. We struggle with that all the time. I still struggle with that. So every time I get these great responses, as I mentioned to you earlier before we went on, these reviews, they do bring tears to my eyes, because I don't write for me. I write for my readers. Mm-hmm. I do get enjoyment out of it, but if I did it just for me, I wouldn't publish books. I would just write and just leave it for me to, just for the writing pleasure. But for me to go through all the steps that I do to publish, I do it because I want my readers to get the enjoyment out of that. And, we do second guess ourselves. And now you as an editor, you read our work. You read our work maybe 2 or 3 times. We read our work 7, 8, 9, 10 times before you see it. By the time we've read it the 10th time, it's stale. Yeah. It's not nearly as good as it was or is when fresh eyes see it. So imposter syndrome is very real. Any struggling writer that's out there that's dealing with that, it's very real for everybody. And I just think, don't let it hold you back. Don't let it stop you from fulfilling your dream and publishing that book. You know, if you need to take baby steps, take baby steps. Let people read a few of them. People, honestly, wouldn't suggest necessarily your closest friends and family, because they're going to tell you they love it, whether they do or not. You know, find a writing critique partner and exchange work with each other and help each other, support each other. One thing I do love about the writing community on Twitter is there is a lot of support amongst authors who are helping each other, and I love to see that. The other thing that I don't want to complain about that, so I'm going to be careful how I say this. I find there's a whole business catering to independent and self-published authors, which is okay, and that's great, except especially now in this COVID world, and so many people are struggling to make, you know, a dime or a dollar. I just see like what could be a normal conversation, like, you know, what genre do you write in, that somebody puts in, which you think is just a harmless conversation, really is just a way to spam you. Everybody is spamming you. Everybody knows, everybody has the trick to get your books marketing. Marketing is hard. It's hard for everybody. Everybody's struggling. I mean, it's very rare that anybody's first book hits the bestseller list. We all set out thinking that our book is going to do that. It's not. Reality is it's not, but don't stop. Don't not do it. You're going to eventually have a breakthrough book. It could be book number 4. It could be book number 8. It could be book number 12. Keep writing, keep doing it. Don't stop. And don't get sucked in by all of these people that are out there trying to make a buck off you because you're so desperate. Stop. Be patient. Patience is a virtue, and, you know, just keep plugging away, keep doing it.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, because you can, if you stop, you don't get better. And so,
Right.
you know, you mentioned it could be book 4, book 40, but you're going to improve through that process.
Right.
So that's awesome. And I think you mentioned imposter syndrome. We have a post on that on the blog. So I wanted to point out for our viewers that they could find out more there, as well as the idea for finding beta readers and critique partners, because it's great to start out with your, you know, your trusted friends and family, just to get a sense of, am I onto something here? But then eventually you want to find people in your target audience that, you know, whether you're writing for YA or you're writing for women's fiction, or, you know, you want to make sure that you're not just you're not hearing what you want to hear from people that are,
right.
You know,
constructive criticism.
Yes, exactly. And some objective feedback. And so there's also a post on how to, what questions to ask to get really good beta reader feedback and that. So I encourage people to look into that. But, and you've had some great support here today. I wanted to acknowledge all these people that are saying such lovely things about you. Thank you so much for showing up and showing your support. Okay, so let's talk a little bit on the serious side, because besides beta readers and critique partners, which are probably pretty good about pointing this out as well, your book doesn't shy away from serious topics. And I wanted to know how you ensured that you were handling them well. Like, there's this thing out there, there are people that focus on being a sensitivity reader. And I think I wanted to know if you had solicited feedback from sensitivity readers or beta readers, or how you made sure that you were handling those serious topics well.
You know, I try to put trigger warning. I do put trigger warnings when I put my descriptions about my book. So if there's people that are sensitive about certain things within my books, there is a warning there for them. There are some real life issues that I think we all deal with, or we know people that deal with them. There are some issues like, you know, one, especially in Deja Vu, I did get feedback about something that happens to Amber in the book. And it came to me, as I had told you, sometimes, you know, that projector just keeps going on and on in my mind. So I was in the bathtub one day and trying to relax, and that movie projector kept going. And that particular scene that happens with Amber happened around the time the Harvey Weinstein whole news and everything was going on. And Cassie Sherry. I kept hearing reporters or people, conversations saying, how can these intelligent, smart women, fall prey to this man and, get into these situations? And I, just said that there's a whole other side to this, that, there are ways that, women do find themselves in these situations and can't get themselves out of it. And it's no fault of theirs. They're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And, they are a victim and it's not their fault. And I felt that it was important. And at that point in time, that scene became so real and so important to me that I got chills all over my body. And I said, that scene has to be put in the book. Some people are not going to like that, but it has to be in the book because I want to tell Amber's side. She's very intelligent. She's very successful. She's very smart. And I want to show you how, yes, it can happen to somebody like that. And, some people aren't going to like that and they're not my readers. And it's taken me a long time to realize not everybody is going to be the readers for my books. And that's okay. Because in C'est la vie, when you read that book, you'll find out how she took what happened to her in Deja Vu and she turned it into a positive and to help it not happen to other people. And, as in for me, being a 2-time cancer survivor, I always try to find a silver lining. And of course, I say my double mastectomy was my silver lining the second time around because I got bigger, perkier ones. But, I also have some amazing people that are a part of my life that I would have never met had I never been diagnosed with cancer. So, we can always take the most horrible things that happen to all of us and turn them into a positive. So, yeah, there are some people that are not going to like it. And it may be that for some people, it's happened to them personally. If they continue to read the series, maybe they'll be able to get something positive out of it and be able to take a negative or something horrible that's happened to them and find a positive and maybe help somebody else deal with it. Awesome. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Well, Gabrielle wants to know what is next. We're going to get to that later, but you can give us a little hint now.
Oh boy. So it's funny. I have a list of book ideas. And what I do is I go through that list when I'm ready for the next idea, and I read the list a couple of times, and then I wait and see which idea pops in my head. So I had this idea of a bodyguard that was going to be protecting this diva, but there was going to be death threats. And then I thought, well, maybe this bodyguard is the one that's sending the death threats. And this idea kind of stuck in my head. I'm not giving anything away because I took it, I've spun it, and I've spun it, and I've spun it. So now I have this thriller that I'm writing. There's a little sexual tension in there. There's no sex scenes in this one. Little sexual tension in there. So I don't have a name for it yet, but just briefly to explain, the person that's hired for this has the skills of the ninja, the patience of a sniper, and the ruthlessness of a mercenary.
Awesome.
The mark must be destroyed, his reputation ruined, everything he loves taken away from him. But he's left to live and suffer. The problem is the person that's hired for this job has ethics and morals. So virtually, he's a destroyer that has ethics. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Very cool. Well, we have another one here that Sandy's asking about. How do you reach book clubs?
Ooh.
That's a great reference.
That's great. Oprah's book club, I believe, is through Apple Books. I believe that to be true. My book is not yet on Apple Books. My book is distributed through Ingram, and Ingram has yet to get me on Apple Books. So I am working on that. However, to answer your question beyond that, I am working through Book Trib, who is sending my book out to 60 book clubs in the beginning of January, which is Facade. So I am doing that. And then it's just other local book clubs here, people that I know that have them. There are some book clubs on Facebook. They frown upon being spammed, of course, so you cannot go in there and just say, hey, I have a book. Do you guys want to read them? So I try to get into groups that I'm interested in. I like the books that they read. And I do participate. I do become part of them. I do engage with them. And then from time to time, they allow me to go and do takeovers and introduce myself, introduce my books. I do some giveaways and stuff like that. So it's an uphill battle. It's constant. But there are a lot of book clubs. So if anybody who's watching this knows of any book clubs that should be reading my series, let me know.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned giveaways, and we talked a little bit about that before, maybe before we actually went live. And you said you had a question there about your coffee. Ooh, for a chance to win Facade.
Opposite here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have something in my coffee. I think I've teased about this on social media a little bit. I have something, a little something in my coffee. So I just want people to try to guess what it is. And the person who guesses right gets if they live in the United States, they get a free signed copy of Facade. If they live international, I'll send them a digital copy for sure. But if they can guess what I have extra in my coffee, a signed copy of Facade. I have to take a sip now.
Yes, enjoy that. So I didn't put it in my coffee, but I will share what I can. Here's Sandy's guess.
No, but that's a good guess, Sandy. She does know me.
I don't know how familiar you are with this oh wait, I'll get it on the camera here. Screwball?
Screwball. Oh no.
Yeah. Peanut butter whiskey. It is fantastic.
I think you need to put a dash in your coffee right now.
Okay. I am so susceptible to suggestions.
I have been told I'm a bad influence.
Yes, and I'm a pleaser. I like to make people happy.
I love it. Good guess, Sandy. But I knew you all would guess that. That's why I did not put Fireball in today.
Oh, I like Tammy's suggestion.
Oh, nope. Not really.
All right. Well, keep guessing, and we'll move on and talk about pace. Maybe this will help us with pace too. So overall, your books are fast-paced, and they have just the right amount of moments where you can pause for a breath and not feel like it's exhausting to read. So I wanted to know, because you said that you sit down and you write in a lengthy period and try to get it all out. So I wanted to know if you write the pace like that from the first draft, or is it something that you come back to and make sure you're adding the elements of pace?
I have to come back and add that. My books tend to be, I like them to be around 85,000 words, right around that. That's like a magic number for me. So I stop anywhere between 75,000 and 80. Depending upon how I feel, how much action is going on in that book, how much drama is in that book. If there's a lot like drama overload, then I'll stop around 75, knowing I need to go back and add breaths here and there. Because I will just keep going. I will just keep typing out. And sometimes I will put in there, take a breath here, but I'll keep going. I'll keep typing. So I know I have to go in and fill the blanks there. But as Facade, and I think you pointed this out to me, and a couple readers did as well, did say that there was so much drama going on. There was so much going on, so much happening, that I did go back after that very first time that I published it, and I put a few breathers in there because it was maybe pace overload. So I have gone back and, added those breathers in there and taken that note forward. And I like books that make you sit on the edge of your seat. And this thriller, the next one I'm writing, is the same exact way. I mean, there is so much going on and so much happening. And then all of a sudden the other day, this other twist that makes me go back and rewrite a few things was just, oh my God. When readers get to this one point and sees this one twist, I can see everybody just dropping the book and saying, no way. But yeah, I have to go back and I have to add those breathers because I write fast. I like to read fast paced. And I know that readers need those breaks along the way. For me, I love roller coasters, and I like that drop is my favorite part. So for me, reading, if I could drop the whole time, it'd be golden.
But it wouldn't be as effective. You wouldn't get that feeling in your stomach without the
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
You've got the right balance. It's awesome.
Thank you.
So when you're so we have some other guesses for Sabrina, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh,
White
white
chocolate is
chocolate. No,
delicious.
that's great. What a great idea.
And Sandy suggested Kahlua.
No.
Ah, I'm very curious now. We can find out. So, for the opening, where it is so essential to really hook the reader, can you share your ideas for how you do this right from the start?
Well, Facade opens with the beach scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, and it's funny, the few book clubs that I was able to do with Facade before COVID hit us, I asked, what was one of the most memorable scenes in those book clubs, and number one was always the opening scene, the beach scene. And I think that just people didn't expect it. It just wasn't what you expected. When I ended Facade, I ended on a cliffhanger. Now, I know some people don't like cliffhangers, but I looked at it this way. When you have your favorite TV series that you like to watch, at the end of the season, what happens? It's always a cliffhanger. They always leave you hanging. And people don't complain, right? People don't complain when you have months before the season picks back up. Now, they always give you a little teaser and tells you, okay, so this happened at the end of the season, and they bring you right back in, and it just picks right back up. And that's exactly what I did with my series. So Facade ends on a cliffhanger. You want more. And then Deja Vu picks up exactly at that cliffhanger. Mm-hmm. So Facade, all of my characters, excuse me, are in the hospital. Mm-hmm. Everybody's in the emergency room, either fighting for their life or a life of a loved one. And the doctor walks into the waiting room and says, "I'm very sorry." And the book ends. What do you mean you're sorry? What happens? Okay. So you pick up Deja Vu, and we pick right up with that doctor immediately in the hospital. So anybody that picks up Deja Vu, I'm sorry if you didn't read Facade, because you really need to read Facade before you pick up Deja Vu. But now you picked up Deja Vu, and immediately you're thrown into that hospital. You're thrown into this, oh my God, all these lives are in the balance. What's going on? And now we answer the questions of leaving all these people in the balance at the end of Facade.
And it's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good to start, like with Deja Vu, starting in that chaos with the action. Like, right. With Facade, you kind of pressed that border of, is this could go two ways, because you right. read that, you don't want to trick a reader with a dream sequence, but what you did was excellent. Like the first chapter for me, it has to have like an intriguing character that you care something about, that you want to know more about, and you've got that right off, and then you've got to keep them going. So those chapters that end with like a tidy wrap it up, I'm putting my character to bed for the day, then I go to bed. I like right. the book that says, right. okay, I'm going to like negotiate with myself that I'm going to keep reading just for another half hour, or just right. to like get the answer to this question. And if you keep posing the questions, right. That's
right. When I end a chapter, I like to leave the question unanswered. But then when you go into the next chapter, I don't always answer that question right away. Mm-hmm. I go into another character's situation or whatever they're dealing with, which actually might be answering a question from a chapter before.
Right.
And then when I answered that, when in that chapter, we're asking a question that will be answered again. So I've always got you wanting answers as you end a chapter. Okay, I got to know. Well, what happened? Well, wait a minute. I don't know what happened here yet. I got to keep going. And one of the reviews I just posted on Facebook yesterday from Saleh, from one of the bloggers, she hit the nail on the head. She said, I binged this book. Mm-hmm. I had to read one more chapter. I couldn't stop. And that's one of the keys to pace, is just keep them turning the page. Keep them, I have to find out what happens.
Exactly. You hook from the beginning, and then you've got to maintain that speed and rhythm through the middle, which you do. You do an excellent job of that. And I wanted to know what you felt contributed to the success of it. Like, I think I have a couple of ideas of why it works, but I want to hear from you first. Are we
talking the series as a whole or the pace?
You can do, I would say for each book, you avoid what is commonly, authors struggle with, like a saggy middle. You don't have that problem. So you maintain that rhythm of answering questions from before and posing new questions that keeps it going. I wanted to know if there were other tactics that you feel you've used to keep that pace throughout.
When I have an idea for a book, I have my beginning and I have my end.
Mm-hmm.
Now my end may change as I'm writing, but I have an idea of, what's going to happen at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But then I know that in order for A to get to maybe F, B, C, D, and E have to happen. And then I try to come up with what those are going to be. Somewhere in the middle, I like to have something pretty dramatic, maybe not as dramatic as the end, but something pretty dramatic. And then the other letters specify other things that are, dramatic as well. And I try to space those out. Now, as I'm writing and as this projector goes off in my mind, I try to lead my characters to these events, thinking that that's where I'm going. That doesn't always work out that way. I mean, as I said before, sometimes they have a mind of their own. But I have a few ideas, like I have like notes jotted down that, like right now, the book that I'm writing right now, the hit is a real estate tycoon, and his wife. Now he's the mark, so he's going to be left alive, but everything he loves must die.
Mm-hmm.
And what he loves, of course, is his wife. And his wife happens to be a research scientist on the verge of a cure for cancer.
Mm.
So now this person who is hired to take care of this mark also has ethics and morals. So now if he kills this woman, does that mean her cure of being able to save millions of people, does that go down the tube as well? So there's this, back and forth here. There's this emotional heartstring, heart pulling here, but she's in a lab. So I know she's in a lab. So I know there are certain things that can happen to her possibly that can threaten her life in a lab. So I know that. So I've got those notes in front of me. What those may be, I don't know, but I know as I come to a certain point along in my plot, something has to happen in the lab. So that's when, as I get there, I'm like, okay, so this is my saggy, what might be my saggy middle. Okay, something here has to happen, and it has to be unexpected, something that hasn't happened before that people, oh, well, I expect that to happen, something different. So I do a little bit of research and find, I won't give any spoilers away, but I find something different that could happen in the lab that, she could survive from, because we know we want her to survive in the end. Yeah, so I try to come up with these ways to keep people going, keep them, rooting for our main character, who is this woman, believe it or not. She is going to be the main character throughout this book, and, rooting for her, but these challenges that she has to face, and this person who, the readers are never going to know who this person is until the very end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, truthfully, her husband is a chameleon. He isn't who he's supposed to be either. So little hints along the way, right? See,
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. So these little hints will be dropped a little along the way to keep people intrigued. So as I was writing these series, the same thing kind of happened. I knew these 4 lives. I knew these, I had this background about them. So I knew certain things had to happen along the way. And I think maybe it was a little easier for me because I had 4 lives to deal with. So maybe that helped me, keep the pace going and keep things going.
Yeah, absolutely. So in your Unbroken series, you did a lot of point of view shifts where you switched the character point of view. And that helps with pace too, because you're kind of putting a pause on a one plot line to check back in on another character's plot line. And so have you done that same thing with your upcoming book, with the thriller?
Not quite as much. I kept it more still the main character's point of view. You got a couple other I don't have the narrator as much as I had in the Unbroken series. They're a little bit, but not quite. I mean, the main character, who is Lee, Dr. Lee Harris, she is the main person throughout the book, and throughout her eyes, we're seeing what's happening, what's going on. But you get a little bit of feedback between this person for hire and the person that's hired them, because I want that person to be in the background as much as possible, but you just never know. There's going to be so many twists going on through here. You are going to be on the edge of your seat in this book. And at the end, I promise you, you're never going to see it coming.
I can't wait. It sounds like you dug in maybe to some more like deep point of view in this new one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Very exciting. So thank you so much, Sabrina, for joining. She guesses eggnog, and TK, same to you for joining. She
nope.
No, Captain Morgan.
Oh, I might have
about Linda's espresso.
Okay, so whoever's the closest, and somebody's going to be the closest, I know.
Yeah, well, we still have some time. Keep the guessing going.
All right.
And the questions. Melody's happy to answer the questions, or I can as well. So we've talked about overall, we've talked about the opening and the middle. As for the climax, you mentioned where to place this, like when you did that guest blog post for Revision Division. So you talked about, I'm just so intrigued by the way that you have, you see the movie in your head, you get it all out on paper, but you also kind of come back and it's like a plotter after the fact, or outlining after the fact, where you're thinking about, based on number of chapters or number of words, where certain plot points need to happen. So can you explain how you come back and edit for pace?
I do it's a spreadsheet checklist, so to speak. And I figure my books are somewhere around 40 chapters. I mean, it may end up 35, 38, but I plan out for 40 chapters. And I plan out my beginning, my end. And as I said, certain things that I feel need to happen, chapter 15, maybe chapter 20, chapter 25. I mean, certain things that I feel that have to happen. And I write notes. I type notes down of things that have happened during chapters. As I'm writing and as I type in, I need a breather here, something has to happen here, I just make a note on my checklist. So I know where I need to go back. So I'll go back there and I will add what I feel. I'll just read at that point, like just before where I feel my breather needs to be. And I'll just go ahead and take that breather and I'll just type and I'll just let the words flow and add that in. Once I've done all that, I should be somewhere around probably 90,000 words when I'm all done with that. Then I take a break. I give myself a couple of days because I try to stay as fresh as I can every time I read the book. As I mentioned before with imposter syndrome, by the time we've read our manuscript 9 or 10 times, it is flat. It's so repetitive because we've read it so many times. So then I go back and I read it from beginning to end. And I just try to feel that roller coaster ride. I try to feel those ups and I try to feel those downs. And I try to feel that pace feels good, but I don't want readers to stop. I want to feel that they have to go to the next chapter. I love when someone says they binged my book. I don't want anybody losing sleep over it, but I do love to hear that they binge the book.
It's a choice we make. You can't control it. So for the resolution, how do you make sure that the ending is not rushed and that you're providing a satisfying conclusion that still ends with a cliffhanger for your series?
Well, and in C'est La Vie, and this is really funny. I'm going to a little tell-all here. So, when I wrote Facade, I really didn't know where Deja Vu and C'est La Vie was going to go, and the stalker really wasn't a plan when I wrote Facade. He kind of just came out of nowhere. And I was like, okay, let me throw him in and see how this goes. And he kind of developed more and more and more. And my daughter, who is one of my beta readers, I don't know if she's on here, but she's one of my beta readers. And when we were in Deja Vu, she said to me at the end, she goes, okay, so who's the stalker? I said, I don't know yet. She's like, you're kidding me. I said, no, I have no idea who he is yet. I didn't know who he was. So it was pretty funny because I really truly didn't know. But as I was writing C'est La Vie, that person came to the forefront. I was like, okay, I know exactly now who that person's going to be. And which I love about doing it that way is because if I didn't know, the reader's not going to know either.
Yeah, but it's so important then to, in the editing process, make sure that you've planted the like
Right,
foreshadowing and the
right,
necessary hints that at the end they're like, oh yeah, it had to be like that. Like
right, right. And
it should be a surprise, but it can't be a completely that came out of nowhere.
correct. So when I ended C'est La Vie, I felt that the stalker coming to light and who that person was really had to be the final ending to the book, which isn't the final chapter. It's the next to the last chapter. But I felt that that was probably the one unanswered question going through here, that really needed to be answered. And why that person was stalking her and her loved ones and why that came to be. So that gets resolved there. But then, although it's not really a romance series, it really is based around their romantic interests. And that's really how Facade started, is how these relationships started. So I know I wanted to tie them up as nicely as I could. So that really is my final chapter. However, there are relationships in the book that, I don't know, some people might want to see what happens beyond them. And I think the most important one is probably, Ashanti and her bully turned lover, turned relationship. They both go off to college, and, he wants to be a politician, and now, she wants to be a doctor, a research scientist herself. And I think that that may be another book in the future. So the series is tied up. It is complete. There is no cliffhangers left at the end. They get their happily ever after. But, there are things with Zaya and Tina that could happen, that could be another book in and of itself. So I left some questions. I left some things that could happen, but I don't feel that readers are going to say, oh, okay, she didn't answer that question. That could take us on if we choose to.
So if Sherry, there's still hope.
It's possible. It's possible. I have another book after this one that I'm writing that I have to write. So we'll see. We'll see. I need more writing time.
All right, there's been some more guesses. I'm not keeping up with this. Sandy suggested Sambuca. Did I mention that one already?
Yeah, no.
TK says cinnamon whiskey.
No. Oh. Pumpkin.
Sabrina?
No.
All right.
Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Okay.
One more.
Smoked paprika. Oh, I love smoked paprika, but no, it's not that.
Yes,
okay.
In case anybody doesn't know,
I'll give a hint.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'm going to show you the container that I have it in. It's not the container that it comes in, but somebody who's seen it in this container might know. And it is alcoholic. So I'm going to show you this.
I'm sorry, it's not butter.
Not butter, and it is alcoholic. So does that tell anybody anything? That's all I'm going to, and at some point I'll turn it up. But if somebody's even close and gets the alcohol part of it.
All right. So let's talk about, my passion for the editing piece of it. We're going to have to talk a little bit about how you found that experience to be. So after writing and revising on your own, what types of editing did you use to perfect your books?
Well, I found you via the wonderful writing community on Twitter, which, again, I can't say collagen. There is collagen in there. There is. That's not this. There's alcohol, but that's not it. There is collagen in there. I found you on the writing community via Twitter. You came highly recommended. And as you probably remember, I was kind of in a desperate situation. I fell prey to the wonderful, well-meaning friends and family who offered to edit my book, and they were wonderful. And I think that every writer should definitely ask their friends and family to help them edit their book, but still go that final step and have a professional editor do that final edit. Because, everybody that catches every error just makes it a little bit cheaper when you use an editor, because they found, those mistakes that you wouldn't have to find for them. But you need to use an editor. And that was the mistake that I did. That's a mistake I made for the first time that I published Facade. It was a mistake that I preach over and over to writers: save your money, make sure you use a professional editor. When you and I met and we talked, I didn't know what editing services were even available. I really thought that an editor meant you went through and you checked my grammar and you checked my punctuation, and that was it. And when you and I talked, the first thing you said was about all these different editing services, and I was confused. I was like, really? I had no idea. But then as I looked at it and I saw the developmental edit, imposter syndrome reared its ugly head, and I said, oh, you know what? It's probably not a bad idea that I did that. So we did that, and I think we did. I wanted to do the copy edit, and I think I got that wrong too, didn't I? I picked something else.
I think we did proofreading, and then we went back to copy editing.
And I really wanted to do the copy edit, but we fixed that in the end. Anyway, so I did the development editing, and what I loved the most, again, imposter syndrome. I know I keep saying this, but when you put your work out there, you're putting your heart out there. You're making yourself vulnerable. And, anytime somebody critiques you, depending upon how that is presented to you, it can be very harsh, it can be very ugly. I mean, 1-star reviews are, to me, it's brutal, unnecessary. Nobody should ever give a 1-star review to an author who struggles and puts a book out there. Just don't even give a review. If you hated it that much, maybe it's not your genre. There's no reason to leave a 1-star review for an author, especially someone who works so hard to put a book out there. It's harsh, it hurts, it's cruel, it's mean.
But I will say this, if I could interrupt. I don't typically, I try to leave positive feedback. And if I can't do a 3, I generally don't do the reviews like you said, but I like to read what has been rated as 1s and 2s, because often if they've done more than just the stars and they put comments, I will find something that someone found offensive or wrong that I'm like, well, that's what I'm looking for. Bring the steam. I will read this book that offended you. So don't think that they're completely detracting. You may help those if you do have 1-stars. I don't even think that you do, but if you do, those that will help you find the right readers, the ones that want to read your book. So there is still something to be said for having those out there.
It was very hard for me, to get doesn't hurt me anymore now, doesn't bother me. But the first time that I published the book, it was very hard to get those 1-star reviews. And, one was, it wasn't her genre. She didn't like the fact that there were sex scenes in the book. And the other one didn't like the fact that it was a cliffhanger ending and there was not another book to read thereafter. So, they're legitimate, but still from, putting your heart out there and making yourself vulnerable was very hard. So paying for somebody to critique your work is, okay, when I got your letter and I got the manuscript back from you, I got my glass of wine and I sat down and I was like, okay, here we go. And the way you worded it was, when something needed to be fixed, you explained it. And for me, I don't like to just fix this. Tell me why. Teach me. Right. And you taught me. You explained to me why. But then when you laughed, you told me you laughed. When you loved a part, you told me you loved a part. When a piece of pretzel was on the ground and it was a 5-second rule and it grossed you out, you told me it grossed you out. I loved that about your developmental edit because it didn't hurt. I really felt that you appreciated, you read it. You read everything about, and you taught me so much. And every developmental edit, we did both Facade and Deja Vu, we did developmental, you taught me so much. So I really, truly believe that if my writing has gotten better, you are such a big part of that because you taught me, you helped me become a better writer. And I think that is, I think editors get overlooked that again, I thought your job was punctuation and grammar.
Yeah.
And copy edit, people, copy edit. That's what you want. Copy edit. So I thoroughly loved doing the developmental edit with you. And again, I thank you for being so kind in how you provided that to me. I highly recommend it for anybody. I've never used another editor. You're the only one that I've ever used. You're the one I'll ever use. And I highly recommend your service. And I think regardless of anything else, that hands down is worth its weight in gold right there.
Thank you so much for saying that, because even editors, not just writers, go through that same imposter syndrome. So every edit that I send back to an author, I'm on pins and needles until I hear back from them that they're okay, that it was well received and helpful. That's the biggest thing. Like for me, yes, I try to be diplomatic and instructional with the explaining why and giving suggestions. And that's the best. When I give suggestions of, well, you could do it this way, I don't care if my suggestion is rejected, because often it gets the author thinking and then they come up with something even better. And I'm just so proud. I'm so proud to be part of the process. And if I could take 1 second to just, for people who, like you in the beginning, didn't know the difference between them, I'd like to explain. So today we were talking a lot about pace. We've talked about plot and dialogue and character development, all those things you'll find in a developmental edit, where you're looking at the big picture elements, and point of view, I think, was one where you've come a long way. And it shows like the mastering that, making sure that you've got the distinct voices when you're in a certain point of view, or that you're not jumping around too much and it's jarring. Those are the elements that a developmental edit tackles very early in the process. And you're right, for every beta reader and family and friend that can point out a typo or a missing period, or all the little stuff that would distract me when I'm doing a copy edit, it saves me time, which saves you money. So fantastic advice. I tell everybody to do that before it comes to me, so I can focus on the more complicated things, like, pull out the Chicago Manual of Style and figure out, do we need a comma here or not? Like, but that's more, you're right, that's more the copy editing. And then the proofreading, just for people who may not know, is it's supposed to be that final step after formatting. So your goal is to change as little as possible. So that's not where you want to decide would a different word be better, or you're really just trying to fix the completely not subjective, this is an error, we missed a comma, we missed a period. And so I think you're right, when you made your choices for like a developmental edit in the beginning, followed by a copy edit to really polish it. Those were excellent choices to get your books. Every pass brings the quality level up. You're right. So you've done a good job of building a team of, the number of times you go through the drafts, the people that you have in your circle, your ARC team, and all of that, and then taking the professional editing steps is perfect. We have more guesses. Irish whiskey.
No.
Did I miss this one by Sandy?
Yeah, no. But stay on the creamer part. Stay on the creamer part.
Oh, wait. Sabrina might have it.
No.
Okay.
Okay. All right. It's popular right now. And I don't want to give it away. If I say something,
no. Let them keep guessing. We've got a little bit more time here.
Okay.
So I definitely wanted to thank you for working with Revision Division, for trusting me with your babies. I've enjoyed.
Beautiful.
Exactly. And wait, I'm pointing the wrong way. Yeah. So I'm honored to have had the opportunity to work with you. I appreciate it so much. And I guess before we wrap up, I wanted to make sure that you share your exciting news. You've talked a little bit about the thriller, but I'd like to hear more about the future and what you have planned. I think we have some questions out here also that are along that same line.
Well, the thriller, I'm hoping the first quarter of next year, the thriller will be released. I have another sci-fi, I guess you'd call it a sci-fi thriller, which will become right after that. I'm not really sure. I might dive into a continuation. of the stories from the Unbroken series, but it will not be an unseries broken book. Or an Unbroken series book. That series is complete with these 3 books. But I do think that I think we want to know what happens with those 2 teenagers. I want to know what happens. I mean, that kind of runs around in my mind, what happens with those 2 kids. And then at the very end, Amber whispers something in Patrick's ear. So I'm wondering if people want to know what it is that she whispers in his ear. Because I know I've
I
asked
do.
several people I know what she says, but I've asked several people, what do you think she whispers in his ear? And it's funny, nobody has guessed. So I'm wondering if maybe that needs to be,
That needs to be one of your. I don't know if you, and I think you mentioned that you have a newsletter and like a kind of your subscriber list. That probably needs to be like premium content that goes to your
oh, that's a good
fan
idea.
club.
That's a good idea. Yeah, yeah. But Ashanti and Mitch, that the way that whole relationship kind of came about, and which is really funny, I had no idea that that was going to happen between them. I had no idea that that whole thing was going to blossom. And, that was one of the questions we touched on a little bit about, real life stories and real life, situations that's happened. My husband is from Lebanon. So when 9/11 happened, it touched him, deeply about, the terrorists and the towers falling and, everything that was happening about Muslims around. His family's Muslim. He's not. And, it touched our family deeply. We have a couple of nieces, one who's a neurologist here who is Muslim. And, personally, she had, situations that happened to her. So that did happen to our family. So when I made, Ashanti and her mother Muslim, but South African Muslim, there were parts of that. My daughter said to me, "Oh, Mom, you got to take some of that out. You're preaching," because I mean, it really did. I mean, it was heartfelt, and I put some stuff out there. So I did cut a lot of that out. But again, there's two sides to a story. I understand why people were so hurt because, yeah, terrorists attacked Americans, towers fell, people were killed. I was hurt by that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all Middle Easterns are bad and that we discriminate and we hurt those people, because there's some very loving, wonderful Middle Eastern people here in this country. And, by attacking them, it hurts them. So, by that whole scenario, I mean, that really where Ashanti came about, and that bully situation. That's where the fact that they became what they became and blossomed through the series, I had no idea that was going to happen. But now I'm curious, she now, they're in college now, and he has kind of pushed her away because he wants her to be successful, but he's in love with her, and he doesn't feel he's worthy of her because of how he treated her. So I want to see how that relationship goes. I think that might happen next year. I think that definitely might happen.
Well, we'll have to stay tuned. We have some more guesses.
Oh, no.
Let's just Sabrina, you crack me up.
No, but I went for Bailey's Creamer. No, but I have found for my bubble bath one of that. What's it called? The Mr. The bubble bath. They do the salt. Mr. D. Somebody help me out here.
Let me think of Epsom salt.
Oh, well, it's an Epsom salt, but there's a brand name, Mr. Deeds or somebody, and then there's a liquid bubble bath, and there's one now that is cannabis. So I
bubble bath?
You might have seen it. I made a joke the other day on Twitter. I said, "Will this make me munchy? Will this make me hungry afterwards?" But I have to tell you, I love it. But no, that's not what's in my coffee. My good guess.
Well, Melody, thank you so much for talking with me today. This has been super fun, just as you promised. And so fans, I want to let you know, the followers, thank you so much for your support today and your questions. You can find Melody Saleh on Amazon, BookBub, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all author, Goodreads, and be sure to subscribe to her newsletter since it sounds like she's got some good ideas coming now. Thank you for joining us. This was fun, and I'll be going live again to connect. Oh yeah, one second.
Let's do both giveaways anyway. Even though they didn't guess, I think we should still give away 2 books.
Okay. Great.
We'll give up to, I never can figure out how to get it right here. But I think we just do it randomly from 2 people that have been here. And I'll let you pick, and I'll reveal what's in but let's just go ahead and pick 2 of the people that have been interactive here today. I'll let you pick. And
well, before I do it, there's one more guess.
Oh no,
that was the bubble bath, right? It's Mr. T.
Mr. T's. Is that it? Yeah, that might be it. Yeah, but it's a cannabis. So if you follow me on Twitter, the picture's on Twitter, and I like it. So should I reveal what's in my coffee?
You can, and then what I'll do is I'll use a random generator from the people who contributed today, and we'll post on social media the winner, if that's okay.
Yep. Okay, here you go. Here we go, guys.
Oh, how can we miss
I
that?
can't believe nobody guessed that. It's delicious in coffee.
Oh, it is. So awesome. Thank you. So for your followers and fans that joined us today, to connect with you, we can direct them to visit melodiousenterprises.com, and to connect with me, check out www.revision.com, revisiondivision.com.
It's that whiskey in her coffee.
Yeah, exactly. So peanut buttery and whiskey.
Thank you, Kimberly. And thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Have a great day.